Shalom Chavrim, I'm Stephen Benoon. You're watching Israeli News Live. Very interesting things that are happening all through the Middle East here. The Times of Israel is reporting that U.S. troops have arrived for drills simulating massive missile attack on Israel. That kind of lets us know now for sure then that the Patriot batteries that were sent from Germany that landed in Israel are actually being used for this particular drill. And it is very concerning that Israel is practicing a drill such as this. We know that just yesterday, the Secretary of Defense of Israel was talking about having to be prepared in the event that Israel has to do a ground invasion inside of Lebanon against Hezbollah operating inside of southern Lebanon there. So very troubling about the environment, the situation going on in the Middle East and how tensions are continually rising. And moving on to look at some other issues as well. Trump has big plans for Syria, but he has no real strategy. That's according to the article here that was published on Politico magazine. Can't say that he doesn't have a strategy, but he does plan to stay for the long term. But I think that's been the plan from the very beginning, regardless of whether it's President Barack Obama or that of President Trump, either one. But it also kind of lets us know that perhaps that President Trump is not going to back down from President Erdogan's threat to take out all the Kurds in the region. After all, the president was talking about arming them as well as supporting them and training a border patrol, something that has concerned Syria pretty much too, because of the fact that it looks more like an autonomous region or a Kurdistan being carved out in Syria. And that's probably the most viable place, seeing as they've already destroyed the country with war. But it looks like Turkey is making sure that that doesn't happen by destroying all of the Kurds. And sadly, there's even some Syrians that are not opposed to the fact of Turkey killing the Kurds. That's very troubling. What they need to do is make an alliance with President Bashar al-Assad, which I know they've been working on, just have not come to any agreement yet. That would be the better thing to do there. In the Arab news right here, the Middle East, what's next for the 2 weeks of Afrin operation? They're reporting that, according to the sources there, that Turkey has already created a 3D simulation type of program there, showing of a ground, not just a ground assault, but an actual urban warfare simulation program to defeat Afrin, house by house, basically genociding every Kurdish fighter that is actually there on the ground. As we mentioned yesterday, the brutality that they did to a Kurdish woman fighter there that had been found dead and mutilating her body and then putting it on public display. That was a pure disgrace. Well, there's nothing pure about it anyways. It's just a disgrace flat out and a shame on the Turkish government for allowing their troops to do such atrocities. But what can you expect with war anyway? Also, the Syrian Times, another article here I wanted to share with you. And let me kind of blow this up just a little bit here. This is on the Syrian Times. Very provocative statement coming out from Syria there. Either the U.S. to leave Eastern Euphrates or to be kicked out. This, according to the Iranian leader's international affairs, Ali Akbar Velayati, has threatened that if the United States does not leave eastern Syria, that they're going to be thrown out. Well, there you go. That's about all the U.S. needs, that type of threats to be made in order for the next thing you know, a war on Iran as well. This is no doubt one of the main reasons why we see that the United States and, of course, Israel are working on preparing for, it's funny, that article keeps disappearing on me too. I don't know why though. Why the U.S. is preparing for such a major military drills with Israel, because no doubt Israel may definitely be the one that faces the attack. If you remember, guys, I've said this many times here on Israeli News Live. Two-state solution has been a done deal for many years, but I've always stated this forces that are behind all this destabilization in the Middle East, which is NATO forces, but their hidden hand, their king of the north, has definitely got to come up. He's got to come up with a justification for Israel to be attacked. You see, they want Israel attacked. Why? Because in order to bring about this false two-state solution that shouldn't even be, you have to be able to put the Israeli people under such pressure of war that they'll be willing to accept the division of Jerusalem and East Jerusalem as a Palestinian capital. even though this was already agreed upon with Yasser Arafat, with Shimon Peres in the Vatican, and the negotiations, secret negotiations that was going on in the Vatican back in 1993 and 1994, already been agreed upon. Simon Tov, who was here on Israeli News Live, an Israeli-born Jewish man that believes Yeshua to be the Messiah, he also weighed in and spoke about how the deal was already signed and they knew the proof of it when it actually happened. But I've stated over and over and over, they're going to cause a war in Israel to force the Jewish people to accept the concessions where they had already given over the land. Look at Google Maps. Look at those new redrawn lines, pre-1967 borders on Google Maps. Tell me they're not preparing for that very issue right there. Pray for Israel. Pray for the people of Israel. Because you know what? The people of Israel have no idea just how wicked the politicians are on all the sides that are involved. Okay? Whether it be NATO, Rome, or even some, not all Israeli officials, mind you. I do believe we have some very good politicians in the Israeli Knesset as well. But we got a lot of bad eggs in there too. Don't kid yourself. All right? Now, this is another interesting thing right here. This is a railgun mounted on a Chinese ship. A very military strategy that was being planned by the United States that ended up getting dropped because of the cost of it, where the Chinese have now developed it themselves, the railgun, and they're going to go test fire this rascal very soon. That's like, I don't know if you'd call it supersonic shells that this thing fires or what, but we're talking about it can fire a 1-ton shell at Mach 7 of a speed, or 561 miles per hour. I take that back. That's the 1-ton shell can be fired at 561 miles per hour. Mach 7 is a different type, I think, of ammo that they can put in this gun here. And it can travel, gosh knows, I think 100 miles, I think, at Mach 7. This is a deadly, deadly weapon. And the Chinese are actually fixing to put this thing to test here. And let that be seen in open waters. Ukraine and Donetsk rebel weapons factory has been blown up, according to Ukrainian news right here. And believe me, the Donetsk is coming under heavy fire. Last couple of nights there, they've been attacked repeatedly by Kiev's forces. We shared with you guys, and I'll just quickly throw Twitter back up here. We were sharing with you the different troop movements that were going on there. Our good friend Lorenzo over there with already happened. Let me just pop up his site here real quick because this is where we can get a look at this here. In fact, the Belarus, one of the things he had sent me today was that Belarus had actually, they had stopped doing military agreements with Kiev, and it is suspected that war is definitely very close at hand. This was the thing I wanted to share with you once again. Remember, the train cars loaded with tanks and stuff that Lorenzo shared with us, leaving out of Kiev there. Very troubling situation, friends, very troubling. They're getting ready for war there, and I think Russia is very much aware of that as well. And I think this is one reason why Russia themselves, and let me take you over to Mikhail's Twitter page there. He keeps it at the top of his page, and I think, here we go, here's Mikhail right here, Mikhail D. He's actually planning a trip to America, though, so we wish him the best on his travels and safe travels there. But he shares this photo right here. This is the military equipment being used in Volgograd, Russia, for the Stalingrad parade there. And tremendous amount of firepower, and they're practicing at nighttime. Well, maybe they practice at nighttime for a parade, but I personally think that Russia also is getting ready for a Ukrainian war. And this particular military convoy is very close to the Ukraine border. Very easily to get more of the equipment there to the border in the event of Donetsk and Luhansk coming under an all-out attack by the Ukrainian forces there, which is something I do believe is going to happen soon. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Erev Tov.